Everything is in service of your email list. This is one of the takeaways I got from my conversation with Sharran Srivatsaa. He is the president of Real Brokerage, the fastest growing real estate company in the world right now. That when he joined the company, they had 6,000 agents, now have over 23,000. Sharran has over 1 million followers on the different social platforms, plus an email list of 145,000. The guy knows what he's talking about. I absolutely love this conversation. He talks about why he had to shift from being an entrepreneur to having a creator mindset, the importance of the singularity of focus, and that he finds most real estate agents as well as mortgage brokers don't have that. Talks about the purpose of social, and we get really into the weeds in terms of how he does that, gives some great tactics, and how he uses masterclasses to expand his reach, but also help his agents. This is an episode you're going to want to listen to more than once. I'm going to be listening to it more than once because I love this conversation. And Sharran, thanks so much for coming to chat with me. So before we jump into that, hey, I'm Scott Peckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast, the number one podcast for mortgage brokers who want to scale their business. And a couple quick things. First, if you're listening to this, you're obviously a mortgage broker. Go check out my social account. I'm always sharing stuff on there that doesn't get into the podcast, some tips, tricks, as well as other ideas for you. Go check them out. Give me a follow. And before we jump into this episode, I want to give a shout out to a sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell is a new tool that's available to Canadian mortgage brokers. Think it's like HomeBot for my American listeners. Allows our homeowners to monitor their home equity as well as their buying power on a monthly basis. It creates amazing conversations that turn into conversions as well as referrals. And it's amazing. And when I saw HomeBot a few years ago, I was like, man, this has to come to Canada. It's finally here. You guys need to check it out. Ownwell.ca/Scott. And you can get a discount of 15% off your first month. Go check that out at ownwell.ca/Scott and have a listen to this episode. Hey, Sharran, welcome to the show.
Scott, super excited to be here. Thank you for having me, man.
So, hey, I've been following you online for a while, and we got connected through a mutual friend. And you're the president of Real Brokerage, which is the fastest growing real estate brokerage in the world right now. And you're doing some really cool things. So I'd love to, how did you get there? So like, I'm assuming you didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to be a president of this company. Like, tell me about that story first before we get into a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the president at all, in fact. So I'll give you like a quick kind of backstory on all of this. I had no real estate background in any way, apart from buying my own house and a couple of investment properties. And I was my first gig was being a software engineer. So I actually built and grew a software company or a technology company in the Bay Area. We sold that. That was exit number one. And then after doing that, I got a chance to take 5 years off. And I taught tennis in the Caribbean, Dubai, and on Maui for 5 years till my money ran out, which was a good experience. But then you talk to people and you're like, well, no one's going to hire a teaching pro. So I went to business school and then went to work on Wall Street. So I was a minister banker at Goldman Sachs and then at Credit Suisse for 5-6 years. During that time, my mentor and I had invested in a small real estate business in Beverly Hills. It had one office, like 15, 20 agents at that time. And we'd get kind of quarterly reporting. And then one of the reports that I saw, I realized that the then CEO of the company that we'd invested in was embezzling from the business. And not fun. So I actually took a leave of absence from investment banking, went back and kind of bought the then CEO out and was looking for a new CEO for this company. This company was called Telus Properties in Beverly Hills. And we couldn't find a CEO because for whatever reason. And I thought, you know what? I think I can actually run this. So I made a proposal to the board where I would be like, hey, I will run this for no comp because I know I can build and grow it. And I think that I can do a decent job. So we took the company from one office and roughly 30 agents to 22 offices, 700 agents in under 5 years. And then we sold the business to Douglas Elliman, and it was one of the largest transactions in the history of the US. So we all won, which was good. However, I spent the next 2 years, which is coming to the crux of the story. I spent the next 2 years in manic depression because I had done well. This was exit number 5. I had done well economically, but I'd built this company. I got a nice check, but a lot of our agents just got a new brand, which is a good brand, right, but they got a new brand. And I promised myself that everything that I would do in the future, I would do it in a co-op model or a co-ownership model because I didn't want to be the only one winning. And so I actually wrote a new business plan for if I were ever to do another real estate company, I would do it in a co-owned model in some way. And I just so happened to, during the end of my non-compete, happen upon to meet with the board and the CEO and the board, the founder at Real. And I kind of explained what I was doing and what I had a plan for. And they said, hey, what would it take for you to come and want to do this? And I said, I'm good. Not really. I'm semi-retired. I love what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And the main thing was, hey, we've already built kind of like the baseline or the hardest parts of what you want to do. Let's just see if this is the right cultural fit for you to go do something. So when I joined Real, roughly we had just under 6,000 agents about 2.5 years ago. So in the last 24 months, we've grown it from 6,000 agents in 21 states to 23,000 agents in all 50 in Canada. So it's been a good run for us.
Right. That's amazing. And okay, I got to ask you a question about the embezzle. How did you catch the embezzlement? Was it obvious, or was it not obvious and it was your investment banking that helped you figure it out?
It was actually really obvious. I mean, it was all personal expenses like, soccer and kids' schools, private schools, et cetera, being put into the.
Okay, so he wasn't even trying to hide it. It was just like maybe he was hoping nobody was looking.
If no one had seen the P&L, you would not have found it. But it was a pretty 2-pager, and I was like, hey, what is all this? Like that seems like significantly higher G&A, which you call SG&A expenses. And I go, oh, that seems interesting. And so I just asked the questions around it.
Right. That's amazing. Okay, so then you've been at Real for the last couple of years. You kind of stumbled into the real estate industry. What's your biggest lesson from your 5 exits that has helped you be better at? So let's talk to real estate agents because mortgage brokers can relate to that. What do you think's been your biggest lesson from that?
It varies from a context perspective. So I'll give you kind of 3 big lessons, if you will. Big lesson number 1 is singularity of focus. It's very hard. Like nobody wants to buy generalist things. No one wants to build generalist things. If you're going to go build something, you're going to go build something. So take a Ryan Serhant, for example. He's like, hey, I'm going to go build this company that takes over boutique real estate in New York City. I'm going to use that model to expand. And then I'm going to do events and use my brand and do all of that. He's very singularly focused on what that is going to do. Right. And so you may have an agent in Laguna Beach, California that only works like expireds. They have high singularity of focus. And I think what happens to most people, entrepreneurs, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, is that our industry is filled with selling you a lot of shiny objects. And so if you can't stay business model focused, which I will tell you that over 80% of agents and mortgage brokers, if you ask them, hey, walk me through your business model in like 1 minute, they can't.
No, because it's like they're all over the place.
Correct. So most people don't, when I say singularity of focus, I don't mean singularity of focus on effort. I mean singularity of focus on business model, because you realize that this is what I want. This is what I'm trying to do. This is where I'm going. And everything else is a not now for me. So I always talk about in our world, what is it now and not now? And a lot of people say, well, if not now, when? I'm like, I don't care. Our job is to grow this thing now. Is this a now problem or a not now problem? If it's a not now problem, I don't care. And so that really forces you to have singularity of focus. Kind of that's number 1. The second is cadence of accountability. Accountability is really hard. Most people they think about accountability as paying for coaches. And I actually disagree with that process, because how many times have you met people who have paid for a personal trainer to meet them in the gym at 5:30 in the morning, and they wake up and they text their personal trainer saying, hey, I'll pay you anyway. I'm not coming in today. Right. So when you see that, you realize that the cadence of accountability is not based on paying for accountability. Like a lot of coaching programs and systems essentially will say, hey, we are, pay for our accountability to get you better. I disagree with that, because what you want to find people that you're accountable to who you're afraid to let down. That is the most important thing. So I cannot be accountable to my high school friend, Jimmy, who's a drunk, because if I let him down and by not showing up or not doing something, I don't care. Like,
and he doesn't care either.
Correct.
He's exactly like, let's have a drink.
Yeah, exactly right. But if I like, I tell you how I think about accountability a lot. I think about accountability as, what would I commit to my father-in-law? Your father-in-law, like that's a very, like you never want to let your father-in-law down. Like even my parents, I yell at them, but like you never want to let I'm thinking about a construct there, but who is somebody in your life that you don't want to let down? That is the person you need to be accountable to. And most people, accountability doesn't work for them because they don't have that person they want to be accountable to. That's number 2. And the last but not least, I will tell you that business should get easier over time. If your business is not getting easier over time, it means you're doing something dramatically wrong. And what I mean by that is like, people are like, well, I closed 40 deals this year. I'm going to close 50 next year. Great. Does that mean that I have to make an extra 30 calls a day? Like if that's the case and you have to work more to get more, that means you have no system-based leverage in your business whatsoever. And
Right.
so I always tell agents, mortgage brokers, mortgage loan officers, I'm like, hey, listen, every year in the business should get you closer and easier to do this business because you have better relationships, you have better intuition, you have better skill, you have better database, you have better relations, you have better everything. But instead, the coaches and consultants teach what? Go do more work, go make more calls, go send out more emails, go do more marketing. And so everything is based such a transactional mentality around, I need to do more things to get better result. But in fact, you don't, which means systems drive success. It's really hard for people
That's
to
a
think
good
about
line.
it, right?
I like that.
But people don't want to do it. So I'll give you a very simple example of a system, right? I've been teaching the system for 10 plus years. Most people won't do it because it's really easy. It's called the deal of the week. And you can call it the deal of the week, or you can call it like the product of the week or the client of the week or what have you on a MLO side. But the key part there is most real estate agents, most MLOs don't have any way of staying in touch with their clients because they're like, you can't say I'm checking in. But how do you touch them every single week? Well, if I write a deal of the week every single week, maybe a real estate agent or an MLO every single week, then the clients are like, wait a minute, they actually give me permission to sell to them weekly because they're letting me in their inbox or what have you. Very rarely does anybody give you permission to sell to them weekly, which I think is super powerful. I call it the weekly offer. So if you have that system built into your business, you know that every week you can write that one thing. It feels simple. It's easy to do. It's approachable, but there's a system associated with it. And you can tell that that's the way you actually stay in touch to deliver the results that you want. So systems are the ones that drive success.
Right. That's so good. A couple of thoughts of that. There's a guy I just had on my podcast who moved to a new town, built his mortgage business to 20 million in production in a single year. And all he did was open houses. And he did, I was just like, how many did you do? And and so it's just the singularity of focus. You don't need 10 different things. You just do one, take one simple idea seriously and you can change your business.
Right.
And there's another thing I was thinking about with the cadence of accountability. I had somebody I was coaching and she was struggling with doing the activities. And I said to her, we got down to why do you want to do this? We dig down to the why. And when she said, I don't want to let my kids down. I don't want to base. And I said, well, put a picture of your kids on your computer. Well, now she's hiring an assistant. This was, later on, she turned the corner. And so I like that idea of the cadence of accountability to somebody you don't want to let down. And sometimes it's your father-in-law, sometimes it's your kids, or whatever. And so that's so good, man. That's so good. Okay. So these are three kind of lessons you got from exits. What's your biggest improvement you've made to your own personal business in the last year?
Go several directions with this. So day to day, I don't sell real estate anymore. So I don't have the act, but I do a lot of flips. So I do roughly 1,000, 2,000 flips a year. And I buy multifamily. I will tell you the thing that I've had a chance to do is dramatically over-index on personal brand, just the personal platform. And here's the big switch. Up until last year, up until the last 12 months, I thought of myself as an entrepreneur first. And in the new year, I switched my identity and I said, I'm a creator first. And that identity change is a really big one because it's not about saying, okay, oh my gosh, I need to go make some content today. Or I need to go bang out a podcast today. It's not that. I wake up saying, what do I create first? I'm a creator first. Mm. And having the mindset of a creator first approach makes you realize that everything else is secondary. Creation is primary. And I probably put out more content than every single person outside of Ryan in the real estate business. Outside. Right. And so it's 40 to 50 pieces of original content a week. If you take all the leaders of every real estate company combined, they're not even 10% of me. And they can all do it. They all have the resources to do it. They can all do it. But I just realized that the more I become a creator, the better I can serve. But the craziest part is this. As soon as that switch happened, Scott, something amazing happened, which is it turned on the sense of generosity for me. And I call it operationalizing generosity, which is if I'm creating all this stuff, why should I gate anything? Why should I protect anything? Why should I hold anything back? And that was the big switch. So I turn around and essentially give everything away. Whatever I build, whatever systems, whatever AI, whatever tools, whatever training, whatever frameworks, whatever scripts, whatever I build, I give everything away.
Right.
And because of that, one of two things happen, right? Number one, people love you and then they may want to join you in some way, which is cool.
Right.
Or people just love you. That's it. Either works.
Yeah.
Either works. And so the biggest lesson for me was becoming a creator first, which helped me operationalize generosity.
Right. That's so good. You have some great language too. Like I can, as you talk, I just like the way you. Okay. So tell me about, if I'm a realtor, mortgage broker, how much time do you spend a week on content? But then I'm gonna make it, because most people are not going to have the resources or the singularity of focus you have. Then I'm going to ask you about, like, what advice would you give to somebody that's trying to like get into this? Because I think we need to be more creators, and create content is going to be part of our build your. You said index on personal brand. So maybe tell me about what you do, and then break it down to simple steps that someone who could copy.
Yeah. So the number one fallacy is trying to model someone who's not close to you in their level of output. So if I were to look at, Jimmy Donaldson or Alex Ramosi or whatever, and I'm trying to model that, I can't do it. Even though I have the resources in the team, I can't do it because they're pumping out so much more content on a daily basis. So what most people who want to get into this should be focusing on is, hey, what did Sharran from 4 years ago do? What did Sharran from 8 years ago do? Like, that is the most important thing, because that's what gives you like the first, second steps. What we see now is we see a pretty full built machine, and then you're like, man, I can't do that. So I'll tell you a very high level thought process. The first one is that you need to find your medium of choice. Finding your medium of choice is the number one thing that is important for a creator. Tim Ferriss found the podcast. Seth Godin found the blog. Trump, whether you like him or not, found Twitter, or Elon found Twitter, right? And so
he found it and then bought it. It's like, hey, I want to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, right. Ray Dalio found LinkedIn. Alex Ramosi found Instagram, and Mr. Beast found YouTube. So what is the medium overall that is right for you? And most people think, well, I have to be on video. I've seen, a lot of industry gurus will say you're only as good as the last 7 videos that you made. That's wrong. There are people who write newsletters. There are people who do local area content. There are people that have podcasts that all do well. Whatever you do, can you be best in world at that? That's the first thing. So I would say, what is the medium of choice? If it's writing, then we need a writing-based delivery mechanism. If it's a speaking, or audio, we need an audio-based delivery mechanism. If it's a video is faster, but videos has a lot of competition now given AI, et cetera. So number one is to find your medium. Number two is to find your cadence. There is no platform in the world right now, apart from YouTube, where you can't, that is forgiving for not posting daily. It's just not forgiving anymore. Like, every platform wants you to post daily. Every platform wants you to share daily. So what is the cadence that you're committed to? Like, that's number two. And number three, this is the most important part. Who are you going to model? Because when you figure out who you're going to model, you don't have to wake up and say, oh my gosh, what content do I build today? You just say, well, I'm going to model everything like Scott. Go to Scott's channel, look at what he built. Scott said 4 ways to do blank. Great. I'm going to do 4 ways to do blank in my business. I'm just going to copy and model the big ideas, because Scott's doing it because he's learned on what works and what doesn't work. Most people should just model the things I have done, because I've tested a lot of the things that work and don't work. So if people can just get their medium right, their cadence right, and who they're going to model right, they'll be able to get a lot more throughput into their content creation than anything else. That's primarily the focus of all of it. If you're going to do video, my biggest recommendation would be learn to do long form first, because once you do long form, it's a lot easier to chop, to get some edits into short form. Is very, very hard. You can get a long form video, and editors can splice a lot of things together. But once you make one short form, you can never turn that into a long form. And then it gets really, so right now, all I do is I only do long form. I don't do short form anymore. I do long form, as in speak on stages or do podcasts or what have you. And the team will then take that and adjust that, edit it down so that they can use my time in a much better way. So you'll also learn to talk in clips, like what we're doing.
Sound bites. Yeah. You just took that, the 3 things you just said, that's a clip you could use, and you could talk about one of them.
Correct.
So, okay. So you basically start, and then, so how much content are you putting out a week right now? Like, and again, this is not for somebody to model if you're not at that stage, but I'm curious for my own. I'm interested in that. Yeah.
So we're putting out just under 49 pieces of original content per week.
And is that across which platforms?
It's across everything.
Okay.
We're on everything. So it's across everything. It does not include like tweets and, the thing that you don't have to do something with, but videos, podcasts, YouTube, shorts, longs, pictures, carousels, all of that, just under 50 pieces of content a week.
So if a realtor or mortgage broker is listening to this and they're creating content, how often do you include a call to action of some kind, or is that something is it like, yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of giving in public and selling in private. And I think the more people that can understand that, the easier it'll allow them to do a lot more kind of content-based outreach. And here's what I mean by that. On my reels or in my store, in my YouTube videos or in my podcast or what have you, everything that I'm doing, I'm trying to figure out how I can just give in public for free, so no one feels any friction in the process. So a lot of times, what I'll do, for example, on a reel is to say, "Hey, if you like this, comment the word gift, and I'll send you like my top 7 trainings." When you do that, now they comment the word gift, and there's a little ManyChat DM thing that happens. So now you're in the direct messages. Once you're in the direct messages, you're in private. So now you can sell in private.
Right.
All I think about is I want to get people from a public facing platform where I'm giving freely to a conversation, because all conversion happens in conversation. And so once I'm in conversation, I can counsel, consult, guide, influence in whatever way I want. But I don't want to do that in public facing messaging or in public facing kind of pitching. I'd rather do content giveaway public and quote sell influence in private.
So for you, is the thing that you're primarily trying to do, is because you got a pretty good size email list, is it grow the email list so that you have it? So like if your content that you create, if somebody's asked for something, is that kind of the ask, or are you just giving it to them straight up like, hey, here's the whatever? I'm curious about that.
So the broad goal is everything is in service of the email list. So whatever we do, however we do it, the goal is to get people into the email list at any given time. However, it is to do that without affecting this metric that I call time on brand. Time on brand is the most important thing in content creation. There's nothing more important than time on brand. And all that it means is, if someone was listening to a podcast by me and they're listening to it every single week for 30 minutes a week, they don't need to sign up to any email list. They literally have me in their ears for 20 minutes a week. Like, I could not have a better friend, community member, tribe member, whatever. It could not. So, some people will like force a phone number, an email address in a squeeze page. I don't want any of it. Like, if you had an event and you had me speak at the event, I would come on stage and literally my first slide would be, here's my QR code. By the way, you click it and you get directly taken to the PDF of all the slides. There's no opt-in. There's no DM. There's no give me email. There's no nothing. I give everything away because I know that they have an hour of time with me and time on brand. If I can't impress them in that hour, they will never remember me anyway.
Right.
So I switched my idea to most important thing in content creation is time on brand. Can I get more time? Can more people get time on my brand, in my ears, in my head, in my heart, in my email, in all of that? And if there is a way, I'm interacting with people, can I squeeze them on the email list? Because email is my primary platform.
Okay, so you said that a shift you made recently was this going from an entrepreneur to a creator, and then also just giving away everything. How has that affected the growth of your email list? And if you have numbers, it'd be interesting, and or follower count by switching from, because there's the old school way is like, hey, I'm going to give you some stuff, but you got to get the other stuff. You got to like, so what have you seen in your own journey with that?
Yeah, the email list has gone roughly. I actually prune my list, so anyone that's not active, like in for 45 days, I automatically like take them off the list. So I keep my list pretty tight. So I probably say in the last year, the list has grown about 40-45%. I think I was just at 100,000 on my real estate industry list was like roughly 100,000 at the beginning of the year, and so call it 45% increase, which has been pretty good. I've also done a lot of events, a lot of online events. So a lot of those online events are people subscribing or registering on Zoom to be at these events and then getting all the kind of materials from it. So that's definitely helped. As far as social audience goes, we track follower count less. We track impression count more. So the two things that we track are impressions and reach. Both are actually in metrics given in both platforms. So definitely impressions counts probably 2 to 3x what it was a year ago.
Right. Okay. What the online events that you're doing, what's been the best online event that you did for engagement, and what would be a version of that a mortgage broker or realtor could do? So I'm going to make you take your idea and then modify it for my audience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. So the best online event that we did I wouldn't say from a attendance perspective, but I say from a value perspective, is I did a home buyer masterclass for consumers. And I had all our agents and any MLO friends invite their clients to my home buyer masterclass. So all I did was take people through how to buy a home in today's market live. And then our agents, instead of them doing those webinars, they just brought all of their clients to mine. And that was insane because we had kind of 70% consumers on the call and like 30% agents and LOs on the call, which I thought was super fascinating. So it's one of my, additionally, most real estate companies or, folks like me in real estate companies have never talked to a client in their lives. And let alone having to ever pitch to a client in their lives. So that was when, we always say, well, our client or our LO is our client. Well, sort of. But if you can't help them get to the eventual client, then you suck.
Right.
So that was a big shift for us. I'll flip your question. I actually don't think that there is an event that an agent or an MLO could do that is going to benefit them online. However, it is not one event; it's a series of events. And what I mean by that is, I talk about this. You can call it the monthly mastermind or like a weekly teaching. Literally, this is as simple, Scott. If I were a real estate agent or a mortgage loan officer, this is what I would do. I would write an email to my list or put it on social media and say, hey, here are 4 things that our clients are doing right now to get homes under 6%. I'm making it up, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to cover these 4 tactics on a 10-minute Zoom. I have no slides. I'm going to write it down all on a Google Doc, and I'm going to give you the Google Doc when I'm done. This is what my last 12 clients have done, and I want to share these with you. Here's the link. You probably will get 12 people on that call. That's fine. Right. But then the next week you turn around and you do the same thing on a Wednesday at noon with the next thing that your clients asked you. Hey, the number one question that our clients are asking us right now with the Trump election is blank. This is what I'm going to cover on our call that'll allow you to increase the equity value of your home by X. 10 minutes. And you're teaching that. What's going to happen is most people want to do an event where they have a ton of people on the call and they can deliver something great. But the issue with that is there's 2 fundamental problems. 1, it's very hard to get a ton of people on the call because most people just don't have that big a brand. And 2, it's very hard to present something great because most people suck and they're not good at presenting something good. So instead, what people should do is instead of doing these big events with a lot of people on them and then putting themselves into a pressure-oriented position where they have to build something, they should do smaller events on a high cadence basis and literally rotate the topics, because then a couple of things happen. They get a smaller number of people. They can actually give them attention. And 2, they have a tight topic that they already know a lot about that they can just teach for 10, 20 minutes. And now they have a nice recorded asset for it. The people that showed up actually cared about it. If nobody showed up, you still only spend 20, 30 minutes doing it. And you just get better every single time. And that's way better than people writing a just listed, just sold, or here is market update on rates.
Dude, and then you have content that you can share because that resource that you create becomes comment X to get Y. And exactly. So you're literally doing it all in one. Okay, so it just out of curiosity, that event you did with your agents, your real estate agents, how big was that call? Like how many people showed up to that,
I think it was a little over, it maxed out the early version of Zoom. So it was like it was over 1,000 clients on the call. Yeah. I don't remember exactly how many were on, but it was 70%, 71% were consumers and the rest were, kind of agents and advisors.
Right. And then the agents, it's a way for them to add value that you actually, and they can leverage your skill, which is communication, and you're not competing with them. You're not in a position where you're not trying to get their customers. You're just trying to help them, right?
Correct. Well, and after doing that buyer kind of, the buyer playbook, the seminar, right now you can actually, anybody can go get that for free. It's realbuyerplaybook.com. And I tell agents, hey, if you want to do a buyer, kind of a buyer masterclass, go take mine and redo mine your way. That way you have the same slides, you have the same flow, you have the same everything, and you have a benchmark. Like you need to be able to deliver a presentation that is better than mine. If not, you should just send them my video, right? That's what you should do. And so now instead of agents going to Canva and downloading a buyer template, they actually have a flow for a buyer like seminar that works, as opposed to trying to figure out going to a random Facebook group and say, hey, can someone give me some slides that they don't know how to talk to?
Right. Dude, that's such a good idea. I'm going to totally copy that for my brokerage. I'm going to, because I like presenting as well. And so Yep. Copy and paste. Okay. So what you said, the two metrics you track are, would you say that, what are the key metrics that you talked about was reach and engagement?
Reach and impressions.
Impressions. Okay. And so when it comes to social, what is your best, what is your best advice for somebody who wants to improve at social? Because I only got into social a year ago because I did podcasting for a decade now. I love podcasting, love talking to people. Ignored social, realized now, oh my gosh, everybody hangs out on social. So I've actually got to be there. And so it's a new thing. So what would be your 3 pieces of advice for a mortgage broker or a realtor?
Yeah. So the number one thing that you should do on social media, I think, is to find the medium that you like. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to spend time on it. I'll give you an example. Like, I don't like TikTok, so I never open TikTok, and therefore my TikTok engagement is terrible because I don't know anything about the platform. I don't understand the cultural norms of the platform. I don't understand how to work it. So you should not choose a platform of choice if you don't like being on the platform. Number one. Number two is social media is being social. So if you want to post and ghost, then you shouldn't do social media. If you want to do social media, just give yourself some time and say, hey, listen, every night, right before I go to bed, this is exactly what I do. Every night, right before I go to bed, I spend 15, 20 minutes going through all my direct messages, doing the likes, doing the hearts, doing the shares, doing all of that. But I try to be social on the platforms that I'm on social media on. So having people that comment on your stuff and you comment on their stuff is important, especially early on, because you're not going to get a lot of traction with your stuff. That's number 2. Here's number 3 is you want to look at the videos that have gotten shared. That is the number one marker of a successful video. Virality comes from shares because when bigger accounts or smaller accounts shared with other people, they get more views. So virality comes from shares in addition to like the algorithm doing whatever it's doing to push it out. So the question we want to figure out is what made somebody share the thing, right? And here's what makes people share things. Number 1, if they're first to market. If you made something, hey, breaking news, blah, 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 it'll get shared.
Right.
Because if it is actually breaking news. Number 2, something that is status giving. So if I repost the fact that, if I repost a video about Gulf streams and G550s, then that's status for me on a private jet. So people will reshare stuff that gives them status, which makes them feel that's number 2. The third is that they will reshare stuff that they can't actually say. So for example, if I said, hey, real estate agents are the most hardworking people in the world, and their biggest partner that no one knows about are loan officers because both of them together is what actually make a transaction happen. If I said that, then real estate agents and loan officers will share that video because they can't say that on their own profiles, but I'm a third party voice endorsing that. What we want to do is we want to give people something that is breaking news, something that gives them status, or that something that they can't actually say, and last but not least, entertainment. Anything that's entertaining, we share. So you want to figure out, hey, am I making something entertaining? Am I making something that they can't say themselves, that my avatar can't say themselves? Am I making something that is status giving, or am I making something that's breaking news? If you do one of those 4, you'll get more shares. And the more shares you get, the more chances of you getting noticed by more people completely take off.
Right. That's so interesting. So I only do one of those 4, and it's the entertainment. So I create these memes that get the most shares. It's kind of like the day in the life of a mortgage broker, and it gets me the most follows. It's like every time those happen, and I have a very small account, but I noticed that I'm like, oh, look at this. It had 45 shares, which is a lot for me or something. And then I added new followers, and I'm like, and the other stuff, but then I'm like, okay, I make the entertainment, gets them into my world. So then they hopefully see the other thing, but I haven't thought about the other 3.
Well, think about this. The Broke Agent, which is probably the number 1 fun account in the real estate business today. My friend Eric Simon.
I love that account. I follow it all the time.
All that he did. I mean, he's just a master at memes, and like the engagement and the shares that he gets on those are like, I always don't even care about the comments. I'm just looking at the share number, and the more shares you get, the better all of this becomes. I made a video when the NAR changes came out and people were starting to say things like, the 6% commission is going away, et cetera. And I literally made a video that same day saying, hey, I made like a green screen video saying, hey, whatever, CNN is wrong. Real estate agents are awesome. This 6% is not going away. It's only redistribution of how all of this works in the US. And the agents that had both breaking news component and what an agent could not say. So a lot of agents shared that. And I got like, a couple million views on a video because I did it right on time. And I did it in a way in which the agents couldn't say that thing, but I could say it. So
Right.
therefore, take share.
I am going to also copy this, and when I do get my first good, I'll message you hey, this one worked, and thank you for the advice. Because I'm a guy who, when I learn things, I have to apply them. It's no good to just listen to something, but I like that framework of, and I was going to ask you what was your most shared piece of content, but I bet you it was that one, because that was a big story when it first broke, right? That was a huge thing. And okay, that's really good. And then what advice would you have for email? We'll move from social to email now, if it's okay, for a couple of minutes. So tell me about what advice would you have for a realtor or mortgage broker on how to use email? You said there's the deal of the week, which is, I like that idea. Maybe explain that to me, dumb it down, and then how would you, if you any ideas on how a mortgage broker could do that? Because we don't actually, what we sell is not as sexy. It's not a property. It's the stuff behind the scenes. So
yeah, totally. So let's talk about deal of the week for an agent first. So how you want to think about it is this idea called a weekly offer. So how I came up with it was, I saw the rise of Crumble Cookies. If you're not familiar with Crumble Cookies, it's a big cookie company, and they came up with this weekly offer. They make 6 cookies a week, and then everyone goes bananas on Fridays waiting for that cookie to come, the 6 new cookies to be offered. The crazy part is, during that time, us as the customers want Crumble to sell us stuff. So we have to create that in the minds of people. So the deal of the week is one email, one text-based email sent every single week to their entire database with no segmentation whatsoever. And it goes like this. It says, this week's deal of the week is a cottage in Laguna that's going to go fast. And there's 2 bullet points about the home, 2 bullet points about the community, and 2 bullet points why you like it. 5 to 6 bullet points max. And it has the price in bold. The most important line in the email is the call to action, which goes like this. If you're interested, just reply and I'll get you all the details. If you're interested, just reply and I'll get you all the details. And the reason is there's no address, there's no pictures, and there are no links. If you have no address, no pictures, or no links, you don't have enough information for the next step in the process. So you're forced to hit reply and start a conversation, because all conversion happens in conversation. So if you send that email once a week, all I recommend people do is find a day that they like it, say a Wednesday, and they send it every single Wednesday, without fail. The cool part about this is people say, well, Sharran, what if there was no deal in my market? That's ridiculous, because there's always a property that you think may be good for somebody to know about. It doesn't have to be a deal. It's what you think a deal is. It could be something that maybe will sell, something that just got a price adjustment, something that is an investment property. It doesn't matter what it is. What we're trying to do is trying to create the perception in the client's mind that Scott has access to inventory that no one else has.
Right.
And the only way you can do that is to this. And most of the time people won't respond, but you send it out to 100 people, roughly 2-3% of them will actually respond and say, can you give me more information? That 2-3% has, starts a conversation. All conversion happens in conversation. That is kind of part one. I've seen this happen across industries. So there is a watch of the week. Coaching coaches do a client of the week. My friend who runs a pizza store does a pizza of the week, right? And so you're able to do a lot with this. Now, if I were a loan officer, I could do a client of the week. I could still do a deal of the week, or I could do like a rate of the week is weird, but I could do like a strategy of the week. That could be a really good one. A strategy of the week saying, hey, client did not qualify for this. We changed this and this. And then the client qualified for this and we made that happen. Right. So if you have a low credit score, then you want to reply because this may be an option for you. So now you can actually provide a strategy or a solution of the week. That could be really powerful, because now you're just collecting all the case studies. And at some point when it goes out to the list, people will be like, wait a minute, I remember that. I feel like that person, I probably need to reply to Scott.
Right. Okay. So this I've heard you talk about Dean Jackson and his quick question. So I'll tell you what I've done. So when I first heard the 9-word email, he calls it, which is quick question. Are you still interested in a property in Laguna Beach? ? And it gets a massive response rate. So what I've used is quick question. Hey, Sharran, if you were to sell your house, which realtor would you use and why? And what happens is that I build a list of real estate agents that are connected to my clients. And then they reply to me and they say, oh, use Sharran. And then I'd be like, what's great about Sharran? They give me all this inside information. Then when I reach out to you, I have inside information from your clients. And so when I name drop your client, they're like, oh, I was talking to Sally. Sally told me that the last house, you helped them with the last 3 houses. And then they're like, but again, it's a conversational email is what you're doing here is. And as I love that, I'm going to write that down. All conversion happens in conversation. And so you're just using a deal of the week to create a conversational email, right?
That's it. Yeah, exactly right. And by the way, really nice use of a 9-word email by by essentially getting third-party endorsement on your stuff, right? Like that's super powerful. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's worked so well. Like you've no idea how well that has worked, but you can do it for you can send it and be like, hey, if you're to invest money, who's the financial person you'd recommend? And then it's all about expanding your network. Okay, so we could wrap. What would be? This has been a really helpful conversation, by the way. What two things I want to talk about? One, you started a group recently for real estate agents. Tell me about that, and then I want you to leave with me with your best piece of advice that you'd give anybody that's new in the business. So that's the two things I want to end with.
Yeah, awesome. So, real estate is a very isolated profession. Whether you're a loan officer, whether you're a title rep, whether you're a real estate agent, at the end of the day, the industry has built us in such a way that it is a very lonely profession, unless you're in a part of a very high culture oriented team, and that's okay if you're not. But at the end of the day, your work is your work, and there's not a community out there to support that. And I've seen a lot of communities, mainly in Facebook groups, that have been started to help real estate agents, but they've morphed and changed into becoming profit generating entities. So maybe it gets anonymous posts with recruiting, or they have sponsors sell stuff in those groups. I just thought that it would be better if we could have a different platform altogether and get off of the cesspool that is Facebook. So I launched this community called Future Proof. And the main idea of launching it this year was there's so much that has changed in our industry. Call it the NAR regulations, call it lawsuits, call it like new forms, call it like new rules, all of that stuff. And I said, how can we future proof our business? And the way we future proof our business is by having the largest, kindest community possible. So I came up with 3 rules: no recruiting, no soliciting, and no negativity. Those are my 3 rules. And we started it, not just recently, and it's grown to thousands of users and thousands of agents in there. And I expect it to grow more, just to give everybody a platform to have, the largest, kindest real estate group in the world.
I love it. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. So if anybody listening, go check that out. Send it to your realtors that you work with. And if you have realtor friends, obviously if you're a mortgage broker, you do. I know you have a lot of followers already. Go follow you on your stuff. It's so good. Okay, so what's your advice for somebody brand new? What would you say to someone who's new in the industry? And it could be, I'm curious.
So it's a very difficult question, because you have no idea what this person is coming on, how much kind of resources they have, et cetera. But I'll flip it to what I would do. If I were a new agent in Orange County, California, I would join a team. I would join a team immediately for one big reason, which is I'm plugging into an infrastructure of success. I don't have to figure out how to generate leads. I don't have to figure out how to train. I don't have to figure out how to work through a tight contract. I don't have to figure out who do I work with for a handyman. I don't have to figure all this stuff out, the things that you would learn over time in the business. So if I were a new agent, I would instantly want to just ramp up my success, because what is going to give me confidence is contractual and transactional experience. I want to do as many transactions and write as many contracts as fast as possible by limiting and minimizing all of the other distractions. I want to wake up in the morning and have appointments on my calendar set by the ISA, or I already want a pond of leads that I can just call, but somebody just gives me a script. I want to reduce all the friction to start my business, because otherwise I'll spend 3 to 5 years learning the things that are non-revenue generating, and no one has a lot of bandwidth, financial bandwidth for 3 to 5 years. So if I were starting in the real estate business right now, I would join a team and just plug into kind of the success infrastructure. And then based on how I feel and what I've learned, I can then figure out if I can go out on my own and do other things with it. But I would do exactly what the team does. I would follow the exact playbook. I would do everything that is in their culture and in their operations, so that I learn the business in the way that it's already been successful, so that I can kind of have a big leg up right away.
Right. It's what you're doing is and I've seen people do this in the mortgage space. You're compressing 3 to 5 years of learning into a year or 2.
Right.
And it's all about repetition, volume. And so that's so good. Man, thank you so much for coming to chat with me. And so where can people find you online?
I'm on every platform. So easiest place would be every platform, but Instagram's probably the easiest place to go.
Yeah.
And that will branch out to all the links. But if you want a home base, it's Sharran.com, and that gives you the home base for everything. Everything that I build, everything that I work on is all free. So excited for y'all to check it out and see if some of the ideas can help you.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, bud. Thanks, Scott.
Hey, thanks again for listening. And hopefully you felt as inspired from what Sharran shared as I was inspired from him. I know that I took notes from this conversation and will be making some tweaks to how my plan with my business. And just love when you see these people operating at a high level. And when they share, he's totally open and transparent, shares everything amazing. And his success, I'm not surprised with what they're doing with Real. Thanks for listening. As I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the answer. Hopefully this podcast provides some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.